Some games take over 50 hours to play through, and others even longer, especially if you add in multiple playthroughs. Hello 600 plus hours on Mountain Blade and 120 plus hours on Yakuza 0. With all that time spent in these worlds, you need a lot more than just some nice graphics, a fun mechanic or two, and a cliched plotline to keep you invested in the story. You need characters. Interesting, unique, real characters. Virtual people that you would want to spend more time with than you spend with your family. For some of us, that's admittedly easier than others, but it isn't just the main character that has to be interesting. On top, you need sidekicks, quest givers, and antagonists to keep things interesting. There are plenty of interesting side characters out there, so we're going to put forth a high bar to get on this list. For example, would I play a game about this character? We're excluding characters who already have a major game devoted to them or have their entire story laid out in the original. That precludes some excellent choices like Chloe Fraser from Uncharted and Druth, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, but there are plenty more to talk about. I'm the not-so-incredible side character of WhatCulture Gaming, that is Kirsten Ria, and these are 10 video game side characters with incredible stories.
But before we begin, I'm very excited to tell you guys about today's list sponsor, Desperados 3. For those of you who don't know, Desperados is a real-time tactics series with a heavy emphasis on story. This installment has been eagerly anticipated for well over a decade now and acts as a prequel to the much beloved Desperados, Wanted Dead or Alive. Set across the Wild West, Desperados 3 stars 5 unique playable characters, each with their own abilities and skills to help you survive across this hardcore stealth experience. There are tons of mission types to get stuck into as well, with the emphasis being on player freedom. Whether you want to ghost through levels or go in completely aggressive, it's entirely up to you. This is all on top of slick presentation, likeable characters, and a diverse Wild West setting that draws you into this story. The game has been getting some absolutely stellar reviews over the past few days as well, so don't just take my word for it. Desperados 3 is available right now on PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and there's even a free demo if you want to try it out for yourself before buying over on the Steam page, so check those links down in the description below and give it a shot for yourself. So check those out, cheers for watching, and now let's get back to that list.
Number 10, A Plague Tale: Innocence. A Plague Tale: Innocence, first and foremost, was a great game that deserved all the accolades given to it. A major part of what made it so great were the fantastic characterizations contained within the game. The banter between player character Amicia and roguish sidekick Melee is a high mark on an already great game. Melee is headstrong, competent, outspoken, and filled with a moral ambiguity. Through the course of the game, she aids the player several times and also disappears for a time to rescue her brother Arthur, and at the end she goes on her merry way to continue her own adventure. We still don't know what Asobo Studios plans for an eventual sequel, but with the Darun family's story arguably completed, we'll certainly accept a Melee-based game. We'd also delight in a prequel showcasing Melee and her brother's trials and tribulations as thieves and corpse robbers during the opening of the Plague and English invasion. Number 9, RAUL PASSOS. Max Payne 3. RAUL PASSOS is the unreliable sidekick from Max Payne 3. Starting out as Max's ally and partner, a central plot point shows that he was actually sent to set Max up. And then he comes full circle to help Max out in the end before Max helps PASSOS rescue his pregnant girlfriend. With PASSOS moving on and leaving Brazil to get him and his soon-to-be wife to safety, we're left with an unfinished end to the story of RAUL PASSOS. PASSOS still has a career as an executive bodyguard ahead of him, new wife and child or not to mention his time before hiring Max in the flashback. He appears to have spent time as a mercenary and was possibly an NYPD officer alongside Max in his early days, though his true past is hidden by Max's unreliable narration. This all leaves plenty of room for a RAUL PASSOS game showcasing his time before or even after the events of Sao Paulo. Number 8, TACHIBANA TETSU, YAKUZA 0. TACHIBANA TETSU is a major factor within the plot of the YAKUZA franchise's fantastic prequel entry. Between his shadowy real estate empire, fights against the various YAKUZA families in Japan, and his past as a Chinese triad, he has ample opportunity for his own story. Given how he ends up in YAKUZA 0 and the fact that he starts the game missing an arm and suffering from serious kidney problems, his time working as a triad alongside his best friend Oda Jun is probably the best option for a Tachibana game. There's plenty of brutal fighting, tense crime drama, and socio-political intrigue to keep the game going. Given Tachibana's age, the game would likely take place in the mid-late 70s, giving plenty of period influences and worldwide political shenanigans to keep the plot rolling. A major aspect of the Yakuza games, of course, is retro Sega games in the arcades. Being set in the late 70s/early 80s, the in-game arcades could have such classics as Frogger, Zaxxon, and Head On. Number 7. John Donovan, Mafia 3. John Donovan is the insane sidekick to Lincoln Clay in the third game of the Mafia franchise. Originally a member of the CIA who acted as Lincoln's handler during Vietnam, Donovan is a highly efficient machine built of paranoia, tobacco, and not only a willingness but also a desire to commit violence in the name of American freedom. There are plenty of opportunities for a John Donovan story to take place. Mafia 3 ends with him gunning down a US senator and vowing to solve the mystery of who shot JFK. A Donovan game could consist of his wild antics to solve JFK's murder, or it could easily consist of the brutal antics he certainly got himself into during his time in Vietnam War. Whatever Donovan would be involved in would no doubt be brutal, entertaining on a sick level, and filled with witty turns of phrase. Number 6. Liam Burke, Quantum Break. Quantum Break was the star-studded 2016 time-travelling game from Remedy Entertainment, the studio behind Max Payne and Alan Wake. With solid acting coming from many of the stars of the cast, one particular character shines through for his backstory: Liam Burke. Liam is a tragic figure in the game. He's regarded for his high talent level and willingness to do shady things, but relegated to the mid-level authority and used like a tool because his superiors believe he may be a romantic. In truth, he is. He readily betrays the antagonist's plan and goes above and beyond in order to keep his pregnant wife safe. But aside from his murderous, softy personality, we could look deeper and find a troubled former soldier who just wants to be loved. By the time of Quantum Break, he is clearly suffering from PTSD and admits to his wife that after he returned from military duty, he found himself incapable of holding down a civilian job until Monarch hired him to become a fixer, somebody who violently makes problems go away. We'd be interested in seeing a Liam Burke during his time overseas to witness the traumatic events that shaped him. Number 5. Carmelita Fox, Sly Cooper series. Carmelita Fox is a 4th generation law enforcement official working for Interpol in the Sly Cooper universe. She is beautiful and badass, armed with a shock pistol and a desire for career advancement. She's always one step behind Sly's gang of thieves, but only a single step behind them, when most cops are unable to keep pace with Cooper. She's capable in a fight, acrobatic and agile, and has such strong willpower that she's able to fight off hypnosis. A spin-off game centered around Carmelita would certainly be an interesting game to see. She is playable for a time in the series, but in that effect she is working to aid Sly's gang. A game devoted to her crime-fighting activities hunting down other, much worse villains could be very interesting. Given how she ends the series dedicating herself to her work and vowing to find the missing raccoon, whom she finally admits she's in love with, it could be a solid sequel to reset the franchise. Carmelita's quest to rescue Sly. I mean, who doesn't want to play as a tough, anthropomorphic Latina Fox detective, right? Number 4. Nick Valentine, Fallout 4. Nick Valentine is the Bogart wannabe synth private eye from Fallout 4. Armed with a trench coat and fedora, and also expert hacking and melee combat skills, Nick is basically an android with the mind of an old-timey private detective jammed into his processing chips. While he can be a compatriot to the player during the course of the game, you can even help him solve one of his cases. This leaves a lingering question. How many cases does he have to keep his detective agency in business, with an employee no less? How fun would it be to play as Nick with Ellie Perkins acting as your very own Dr. Watson, or your very own Effie Perrine, since that's loosely who she's based on, solving mysteries in the irradiated wastes. Nick also worked as a handyman in Diamond City before becoming a detective, so plenty of opportunities for crafting-based puzzles. And if you loot his office a bit, you'll find he's been investigating events that go as far back as the original Fallout game. He's been around a while, and has plenty of interesting stories to tell, or at least to solve, one would imagine. Number 3. Victor Sully Sullivan, Uncharted series. Victor Sully Sullivan, itinerant treasure hunter and thief, and likely spreader of STDs to multiple continents. Sully grew up in a broken home with an abusive father, before enlisting in the US Navy. Lacking a solid moral compass, Sully subsequently got discharged for participating in illegal activities. Sully then began a career as a thief and smuggler for various criminal enterprises, all with a healthy dose of double timing, backstabbing, and probably lady ogling. Speaking of which, though he has a history of womanizing, he has also shown a romantic side. Wisecracking, cigar chomping, and ass kicking, a young Sully could hold his own in a game based on his pre-Nathan Drake days. Much like the treatment Chloe got with her own game Lost Legacy, we wouldn't mind following Sully through his younger days in his own adventure. Number 2, Tiny Tina, Borderlands. Tiny Tina is the teenage psychopath demolitions expert from Borderlands 2 and 3 now. Originally sold into slavery to be a test subject, she escaped and vowed vengeance against her slaver. She likes blowing things up and playing the Borderlands universe's version of D&D, bunkers and badasses. A franchise favourite since her introduction, and by the time of the third game is likely around 19 years old, this is the perfect time to have her set off on her own mission, rather than be a mere quest giver and NPC assistant. With amazing lines, all spouted by none other than Ashley Birch, such as, "Get out of my shop or I'll punch your butt," and "There's only one thing to do, look him in the eye, nod politely, and kill the living crap out of him!" She's got plenty of explosives, a wandering eye, and tons of personality to go around. If Borderlands 4 ever gets made, Tina could be poised to become a fantastic vault hunter in her own respect. Because if Borderlands 4 comes up in my face and don't have Tiny Tina as a playable character, you know I'm throwing hands. Number 1, Sergeant Avery Johnson, Halo series. Sergeant Johnson is basically Halo's version of Sergeant Apone from Aliens, the baddest ass of the badass Space Marines. In Halo, Johnson is the caricature of a rough and tumble Sergeant Major and may seem like a flaccid choice for this list. He's vaguely flat as a character in the games and dies in the third one, so there's not much else to do with him. But if you look into his past, he was once a regular soldier and he became one of the first Spartans being inducted into the Spartan 1 program. It's thanks to Johnson and his cohorts that Master Chief is able to become what he is in the Spartan 2 program, years later. A game with Johnson as the main character could cover his early career and into him becoming a mentor for a young Master Chief, especially since Johnson survived numerous action-packed encounters with the Covenant long before the events of the first Halo game. Plenty of action, tough talking, and even the chance to flesh the character out some is what you need to utilise the most incredible of gaming stories.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
And that's our list. What side characters do you think could handle their own game? What side characters do you think have absolutely amazing stories? If you like this video, give it a big old thumbs up, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. But for now, I've been Kirsten from WhatCulture Gaming, and I'll see you in the next one.